So thank you guys so much for joining us for Vandis monthly webinar series. Joining us today is IRONSCALES, and we have Adam, Darren, Glory, and Ian. Thank you guys so much for taking the time. I will now pass on the presentation over to the IRONSCALES team to begin the presentation.
Thanks, Martha. We really appreciate the time today. So just a little bit about IRONSCALES. Today, there's a big challenge that we see with a lot of our customers and prospects that they really haven't solved the challenges with phishing or the phishing epidemic. And you'll see here in a slide or two some statistics that discuss the impact to the business. But just a little bit about IRONSCALES is we're an advanced email security platform that combines mailbox level detection, real-time intelligence, and machine learning to prevent, detect, and respond automatically to today's sophisticated email phishing attacks. We are founded in 2014. We're headquartered based out of Tel Aviv, Israel. We've got lots of offices, global offices, and we were incubated by the 8200 EISP group. For those that don't know, that's a very elite intelligence technology unit really focused on cybersecurity based out of the Israeli army. So we've got over 300 customers today globally, and growing very, very fast. So I talked about it a little bit just a little while ago that talks about some of the epidemic that's taking place. And the word epidemic gets thrown out frequently, but it was a term used by IDC and Gartner regarding the challenges with phishing and the challenges that they face. I don't know if everyone on this call knows that when a successful attack happens, 95% of the time it starts with a spear phishing attack or inside the mailbox. So statistically speaking, there hasn't been a really good company or organization that helps protect the mailbox, and that's kind of where IRONSCALES comes into play. So again, there's some other statistics that you can read. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I think something that's popping out to me is the 3.7 million on average of annual losses. When you look at losses, they're not just financial losses that you look at because you gave money to someone that you shouldn't have based on an email that asked you to pay for it, but you've got soft costs. And when you look at the time, energy, and effort, and people involved when you look at the overall cost. So economically, it's pretty big, and you can see some logos on the bottom that have been affected with some spear phishing attacks over the last 3 to 4 years, and all significantly, and all of these have started inside the mailbox. Moving on just one step further, if you look at the landscape, Dark Reading came out with, this was in November, this says that Office 365 missed 34,000 phishing emails spanning over a few months in 2017. EMEA has even a larger challenge when you look at by the time a bad email hits the mailbox, time to resolve that challenge is big. And there's some other statistics that you can read, but it's a big problem, and it spans all verticals and vertical markets regardless of where you are and what sector you are. The beauty of what we discuss is everyone understands email, right? So you can talk to anyone, people know email, they use it all the time. The question always comes back is, okay, why is this epidemic happening? Why are there so many companies and organizations that are challenged with it? There's 3 main reasons, and there's some other reasons as well, but the 3 main reasons is security email gateways lack the advanced threat defenses capabilities. What do I mean by security email gateway? And we'll have a slide on this, but essentially security email gateways are, and I'm going to list some of them here, the Proofpoints, Mimecast, Ironports, Symantec's of the world, Sophos, Barracuda, and even ATP from Microsoft acts as a security email gateway. The threats from the bad folks or the hackers are getting so sophisticated and advanced that they're getting through those security email gateways because they don't recognize it. They don't have a signature for it. And oftentimes, a lot of the time when the email goes through, it's not malicious at the time, right? So that's one of the reasons why that security email gateways just aren't enough. Then you have the human error, right? Unfortunately, with social media, people can look up a lot of things and know kind of your behaviors. They can tell when you're on vacation based on a posting that you have or traveling. So therefore, they can leverage some other challenges based on social media to send emails to other people within your organization to say, hey, look, I'm out of town, as you know, please pay this. So there's some human challenges as well as training and awareness pieces from a human perspective that people are coming into a new organization or they haven't seen the sophisticated attack before. So there's a human element. And then, of course, most of you have heard this before, their security operations are understaffed. So IT and security teams, when you look at the landscape of things they have to cover from the data center, from the network to end users' needs and wants, they're just overworked and overburdened. So it's really tough for them to look at all the emails coming in, do forensics and response to it. And there's no collaboration between, you know, lots of applications you have and the security measurements you have. Okay. So let me turn this over to Ian. This is as technical of a slide that you're going to see today. So Ian, do you want to cover this for us?
Sure, thanks, Adam. Basically, the reason why I'd like to show this slide is just at a very high level to show how we differ, first of all, from a secure email gateway, how we're different in terms of how we're implemented, and then also just talk about our solution at a very high level in general. So if you take a look, email flow is from left to right. The secure email gateway is basically the first device in the chain that sees the email. So typically the way it's set up is all email is actually routed through the secure email gateway. It's an inline solution. And then what the secure email gateway does is inspects each email on its own merits, in other words, matching against signatures. So looking for things like known malicious attachments, known malicious links. They do a good job at detecting these known attacks, and they also do a good job at spam filtering. So, but there's still, as Adam said earlier, the very well-crafted, very targeted phishing attacks still make it through the secure email gateways because they're not, there are no signatures, or it might be the first time that they're being seen. So what happens, secure email gateway inspects emails, what it knows is bad, what it has a signature for, it will block, and then what it doesn't have a signature for, or it doesn't know is bad, it'll deliver that to the email server, which in this case is the gray cloud, and the email server will then deliver those mails into each individual mailbox, and that's where the user has access to these mails. So in our case, first of all, where we're different is we are not an inline solution. So you can see the IRONSCALES cloud depicted. Server, or the email service, means is we're not inline, and also a couple of advantages. First of all, an implementation into the email server via API
So Federation helps with that piece. All right. And the last piece of software that we'll talk about today is IRONSCALES. A lot of the time, this is how people recognize us or doing a Google search on us. It's the training and awareness piece. And we're very, very big believers in the training and awareness. This is how we started 5 years ago. We thought if we trained our users on how to find or depict a bad or malicious emails, they would be more educated on it. The answer is they are, without question. But you can only train users so much, statistically speaking, and you always have new employees. And oh, by the way, the bad guys are getting really good at sophisticated attacks, and it's getting harder and harder for people to recognize a bad or malicious email. So we absolutely believe in it wholeheartedly, but that's where the other pieces of our software portfolio come into play with the iron traps, iron sights, and Federation to say training and awareness is just not enough these days. And the last slide before we get to the demo that I'd like to show is we've been fortunate enough to be recognized by a lot of high-end names, the CRN, SC Awards, and most recently at RSA for the winner of the most innovative anti-phishing software at RSA this past year. So you can see some of the awards. We're very excited about the technology. Our customer base is growing very, very fast. And so I think there's definitely momentum on what we do, and being connected at the mailbox level gives a little bit different spin on the architecture of our technology. So with that, how about we dive into the demo, if that sounds okay to you, Ian?
That sounds perfect. Thank you, Adam. Okay, so what I will do is I'm going to just jump over into my demo system here, and let me slide this across. And so what I'll do is I'm going to show a demo, as Adam said. I'm going to show a demo of the solution. What I will do during the course of the demo is I will wear 2 hats. I'll play the role of an end user in front of my email, and then what we'll do is we'll report an email in real time, and then I'll put on my security hat. We'll jump over to my security dashboard and show you how the security team, how their life is made a lot easier and how they would handle an incident, a phishing attack. You'll see that I have an email from Adam here. You just heard Adam take us through the slides and the solution. And so this is a business as usual email from Adam. You might notice this gray bar across the top of the email here with the IRONSCALES logo. So this is basically where I'm going to start, is with Iron Sights. So again, what is Iron Sights? It's that behavioral analysis tool that's essentially learned my behaviors when it comes to email. So what does that mean? It means that I've learned that Iron Sights has learned things like who I receive emails from, but not only who I receive them from, it also has learned how I actually interact with those emails. So again, because we're at the mailbox level, this Iron Sights will know whether I archive an email, whether I just delete it, whether I forward it, whether I reply to that email, and so on. Builds this behavioral profile. And then what that means is, because I have this granular profile, it's constantly learning, and therefore it can detect things that go against the grain of my normal email interactions and who I receive emails from. So we'll see a couple of examples of that. But basically, in this case, Iron Sights has learned that there's nothing suspicious about this email. So this awareness header, that's what this gray bar is. It's basically unobtrusive, nothing to be suspicious about in this case, but we do have this little drop-down arrow on the right-hand side that can give me a little bit more context around this email. And as you can see here, so we've got Adam's name and email address, but Iron Sights has determined that Adam has a 5-star reputation with me, and that's based in part around this email interaction here below. So you can see that Adam and I have an established communication channel with email. Again, there's nothing suspicious about this email from Adam, so the bar is kind of unobtrusive. And then I'll escalate your level of awareness a little bit. I'll click on this email from Monique, and you'll see that the awareness header now has an alert in it, and it tells us that this is the first time we've received an email from that email address, and we also have a report as phishing button in that awareness header. Now, first-time senders happens all the time, right? We get emails from new folks every day, so it's not too suspicious. However, we do want to raise the awareness to the end user to just say, stop and think, just be aware this is the first time you're receiving this email, an email from this person. Now let me escalate your level of awareness, hopefully all the way up. I'll click on this email from Adam, and now you may notice that the awareness header is red, and we've got a couple of alerts in that bar now. It says not only is it the first time we've received an email from this email address, but we also think it might be an impersonation attempt. So why do we think that? Let's click on the drop-down arrow again, and you can see that I have because if you take a look at this, Adam's name has one F, Hoffler with one F at the end. However, this email came from a sender, Adam Hoffler, with two Fs. Now that's a well-known evasion mechanism that attackers will use. They realize that lots of folks have these impersonation detection mechanisms in place, so they'll purposely misspell the email in order to get, or the name in order to get past those mechanisms. So they'll use things like zeros instead of O's, they'll use lowercase L's instead of capital I's, they'll double up on letters as they've done here with Hoffler being spelled with two F's. We detect variants of the name, so it doesn't matter if it's slightly different, we'll detect it. All sorts of variants around the name. So this, as I said, this is an example of detecting a variant, whereas if you look at this email here, this one is actually an exact copy of the sender name. So we do that for people. That's good for CEO fraud or business email compromise, where we're detecting these impersonations of folks trying to be who they aren't really. So we do that for people, but then we also do it for domains as well. And I'll show you an example of that. But first, let me talk about something. So as Adam said earlier, IRONSCALES started out as a training and awareness company. And as important as that absolutely is, we think it's very important. However, end users still need help, right? So take a look at this. My name is Ian Baxter. My address is ian@ironscales.com. Now, quite frankly, I don't care how many times we train our end users to detect these fake phishing emails that we send out as part of training and awareness campaigns. We can send them emails all day long. I would challenge pretty much any of your average end users to detect that this doesn't in fact say ian@ironscales.com, okay? So if you look here, the awareness header now says that this email is coming from a domain name, which is too similar to my domain. So even here, it's very hard to detect. However, I crafted this, so I can tell you that that's a lowercase l. It's IRONSCALES instead of an I. So just picture, the interaction here. If we didn't have this red awareness header, how hard it would be for the end user to detect that that doesn't say ian@ironscales.com. Okay, so that's a detecting variants in the domain names. Again, a well-known attack mechanism. And now I'll click on this email from Erez. Now, Erez Fingerman is our Chief Operating Officer, and he is out of Tel Aviv, Israel. His email address is erez@ironscales.com. So I'll save you the trouble of trying to detect anything wrong with that. This is, there is nothing wrong with it. It is a perfect spoof that's crafted using a hacking tool. So again, picture this, right? This, if we didn't have that red bar, picture an end user trying to detect that this is a malicious email. First of all, there's nothing wrong with the email address. Erez is telling me, right, I know he's out on vacation, so he's telling me I can't get hold of him, but he wants me to pay, pay an invoice or something like that. So this would be very difficult for an end user to detect. So let's take a look at what IronSights thinks about it. Is here we have the similarity. Once again, we've got an external IP, but this is detecting the sender's name is the same as someone from within my organization. However, IronSights is flagging it because this IP address here is low reputation, so it's not something that we typically see with Erez. We don't see his emails coming from that email address, and we also see there's some problems with the headers. So it's failed some header checks and so on. So this is basically what IronScience is doing, right? IronScience has learned my behavior, and it's basically comparing any email that I received against this machine learning behavioral profile, and it's acting as an advisor to the end user to say, stop, think before you do something. This is what we think of this email. So that's IronScience really raising the awareness to the end for the end users. But we don't just stop at awareness, okay? So we also give the end user the capability of reporting any emails, whether or not they have a red bar. So this email here coming from Ian Baxter, notice that this doesn't in fact have an alert. It doesn't have a red bar in here. However, I still have the mechanism to report this as phishing, okay? So in this case, I've taken a look at this email. I'm going to report it as phishing. We have a number of mechanisms for reporting, whether this is in a web browser, whether it's an Outlook client, whether it's a mobile device, and so on. We give the users the ability to report an email as phishing, no matter what client they're using. So I'm going to report this one as phishing. Tells us thank you, a little pop-up. Watch the subject line. As soon as I click OK here, you'll see that the subject line has changed, right? It's changed in my mailbox, but notice that this email has gone to Ian, Adam, and Erica's mailbox. So we also have the capability of not only changing the subject line in my mailbox, but we can also change the subject line in Adam's and Erica's mailbox. And we can also insert this luminous yellow text, which is, it's customizable. You can choose how you want this to look or what you want it to say. But basically it says, somebody's reported it as malicious, take care, the security team's looking at it. Right? So we're really raising that level of awareness for the end users to say, before you do anything further, take a look, right? Stop and think. This one, for instance, I've changed the subject line in my inbox. This is a reminder to me, or it perhaps is, in the case of a shared mailbox, reminds other users of this mailbox. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this email selected. So look, it's right between this email from Walter and Brendan's. I'm going to leave that selected right there, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump over to my security dashboard, my IronScales dashboard, and I'm going to put on my security hat and show you what's involved when the security team has to handle one of these incidents. Okay, so here you'll see the dashboard at a high level, shows us the status of the system. You see the licenses that are enabled on the system. Oh, I guess I need to log into my demo portal. My apologies. Okay, this one right here. Okay, so at a high level, shows me the status of all the licenses in my system. It shows me some basic configuration entries, and if I click on one that hasn't been done yet, it'll take me to the configuration section. I have an activity log, shows me who's been active in the system, and also it shows me things like the status of my my email integration. So here you can see my mail servers active and my 911 mailbox is set up. I'm protecting some mailboxes. And here you can see the resolution center, which is where incidents that get reported by end users, where they will come into the system. So that will probably be the main focus of my security demo or of the dashboard demo. However, I do want to highlight a couple of other dashboard instances here. So again, high-level dashboard. Next, I'll show you what we call a mitigation dashboard. And what this basically shows the status of our system and which components have mitigated or detected any attacks that have come in over the last time period. We can of course export this to CSV and PDF. And so let's take a look at how this flows. So inbound emails coming in. Out of all of our inbound emails, we've had 206 incidents. So where do those incidents originate from? This will show you the component that was responsible for mitigating those incidents. So you'll see here 206 incidents have been reported by end users. About 200 of them have been reported by Iron Traps. So Iron Traps is our own users within my organization. And then you'll see some here, 7 or 8 of them have been reported by Federation, which means other users, other IRONSCALES customers around the world. Now, these are all clickable, okay? You can click on it, go to that, to a list of those incidents. Below the fold here, we've got things like most targeted departments, most targeted employees, who's doing the reporting of emails, and then also down at the bottom here, we show some analyst performance. So, you know, how many users, how many incidents has the user been responsible for resolving, and what's their median time to resolution here. So, so out of those 206 incidents that have been reported, 177 of them ended up being phishing attacks, verified as phishing attacks. And those 177 phishing attacks have resulted in about 1,860 remediated emails out of 16 affected mailboxes. So very high level, very powerful, showing you, you know, the status of the system and which component has been responsible for detecting the attacks. So that's the mitigation dashboard. Again, export as CSV or PDF. Then we also have, we spoke earlier about the training and awareness piece. We also have the phishing simulator dashboard, which shows us over the last time period. For instance, here, this is an aggregate of all the training and awareness campaigns that we've sent out. So we've sent 25 emails out of 11 total campaigns to 10 people. Out of that, we've got a 28% click rate. 4 of those 28%, 4 people have done training, 3 have skipped training. We've got a couple more statistics down here, such as click rates, top and bottom departments, top and bottom scenarios that I've been sending out. So for instance, this one doesn't result in a great click rate. I could probably either retire it or modify it. And then also by location. So who's located where, if you have physical location, different physical locations. And then down here, campaign results. So this is showing over time, each campaign, how many people are being lured, how many are not being lured, and then also what is that as a percentage. So are we moving in the right direction? Some war game results when we include the security team. Now this one right here, average time on training. So of the users that have done training or that lured, that we lured, are they doing their training? If they are, how much time are they spending on training, and what's their average score? So this is very handy to know that our people are actually going through the training. And then down here, last piece that I'll show is really the it's employees by times lured. So these folks here are doing well, have never been lured on anything, on any of these campaigns in the last 3 months. So these guys are doing a good job. We have other folks here that perhaps click on, you know, in this case, more than 4 times. So we may need to work with these users a little closer, right? Either target them with some simpler campaigns or send them through some more training. So that's the phishing simulator dashboard. What I'll do now is I'll go back to my main dashboard, and I will click on the resolution center because I do see that I have some open incidents that have come in. In other words, some incidents that have been reported by my end users. So I click on that, jump over to what I call our security team's working inbox. Kind of looks like an email system with folders down the left-hand side and numbers of incidents in these folders. So I showed you Iron Sights. That's the red advisor, you know, the awareness header. And so Iron Sights is for the awareness. However, as soon as the user clicks on the report as phishing button, then the Iron Traps component takes over. And it initiates a sequence of events that offload a significant amount of work from the security team. So first thing it does, for instance, is it prioritizes any open incidents in this list, and it prioritizes them based on things like who received the email, how many people reported it, how many mailboxes have been affected, and so on. Does this email contain things like links or attachments, right? We will really want to bubble up the highest risk incidents and the newest incidents so that we get the security team to work on them as fast as possible. So in this case, this incident that I just reported, it's been given a high priority. So let's go and look at that incident. So you'll see here on the right-hand side is the incident. So let me take you through a thought exercise. Adam alluded to it earlier when he was talking about iron traps before. But let's say, for instance, that there's an organization with 5,000 mailboxes, and an email comes into the organization and it lands in 100 mailboxes. So out of those 100 users that received that email, let's say that 30% of those end users are able to detect that it's a phishing attack. And that's neither a high nor a low number. 30% is probably a pretty good number, but let's say, for instance, that 30 people are going to now try and report that email as a phishing attack. So how do they typically report it? They typically report it either they'll forward the email to a security alias, or they might open a help desk ticket. Either way, the security team is going to have 30 incidents that they've got to look at. They have to look at each incident to make sure it's either the same or a different incident. And when they're looking at those 30 incidents, they still, at this stage, it's an unknown number of affected mailboxes, right? They don't know who else has received that email or a variant of that email, right? Sometimes these emails change slightly every time they hit a new mailbox. So what do they typically do? They typically have PowerShell scripts or some tool, some external tool that they have, which they then go and scan their 5,000 mailboxes to try and find that email. Now, hopefully they've written their filters or their Yara rules correctly, and that they're able to find that email or a variant of it. Once they find that email, they then run another script that'll go and delete it. And it's definitely a non-trivial process to find that email and then remediate it. Hopefully they've kept good records, because what happens an hour later when somebody says that email that we deleted, it's a legit email, we need to go and put it back in all the mailboxes. This is not an easy task whatsoever. So let's look at this from an IRONSCALES perspective now, and how that flow would differ in an organization that's protected by IRONSCALES. So first of all, instead of having 30 incidents with an unknown number of mailboxes, of affected mailboxes, with IRONSCALES, we'll have one incident with 30 reporters, and down at the bottom here, we would have 100 affected mailboxes. So again, the beauty of us being integrated directly at the mailbox level is we don't have to scan through those 5,000 mailboxes to find this email. We already know via our API connection, we already know that these 3 people, Ian, Adam, and Erica, have received this email. Okay, so a huge amount of work already offloaded off the security team. So let's take a look at the incident in a little more detail here. So here you can see body text of the email. Here we have email headers that I can expand. I can copy them out here for analysis in an external tool if necessary. But you can take a look at things like, here's where we show SPF checks. Does it have a digital signature? Did it pass DMARC, and so on. We have all of these sections broken out, and also next level of detail around these headers. We show things like return path, things that are typically spoofed, like return path or so on. And we provide all of the metadata around this email for the security team to go and analyze in more detail. So copied the headers out, I can now collapse them again, and I'll start scrolling further through the incident. So if you recall, I said earlier that Iron Traps kicks off this chain of events. So think about this incident here, right? As a security analyst, I haven't actually taken any action on this yet. I've simply been showing you around the interface, and I've been showing you the incident. However, Iron Traps has already started scanning all of the links and attachments, if there were any attachments to this email. We've already started scanning these links and attachments automatically without the security team having to take any action at all. So we're scanning these, and if any of the links or attachments come back as malicious, Iron Traps will automatically delete this email from all of the affected mailboxes, automatically without any intervention from the security team. So it's automating that forensics process. And then down at the bottom here, once again, you can see the affected mailboxes. Again, I don't have to sweep through thousands of mailboxes to find out who has this. And in the event that I want to keep track of who these affected mailboxes are, I can download this as a CSV. I can download that list of users as well. Okay, so as a security analyst, I've taken a look at this. I'm ready to pass verdict on on this incident. So I have these 3 quick resolution buttons at the top of the screen here. Mark as spam is pretty self-explanatory, or it's pretty simple. What we'll do there is you can choose whether you want this to just be whitelisted back to the end user, or whether you in fact want to move this off to a junk mail folder. Pretty simple. Mark as false positive is our big undo button. So it allows us with one click to undo any of the changes we've made. So far, what changes have we made? Well, we've changed the subject line in my inbox. We changed the subject line in Adam's and Erica's inbox. And we also inserted that luminous yellow text, if you remember. So this will undo all of that. And in fact, this button will still be available to us even after we delete the email. And it will automatically restore the email in its original form to all of the affected mailboxes. So that helps the security team to err on the side of caution. In other words, if there's an email that's in the executive suite's mailboxes and somebody finds it suspicious, the security team can act quickly, remove the email from everybody's mailbox, do their inspections, and then if it turns out that email is legitimate, they can restore it to the original mailboxes with one click. So that's marked as false positive. Now, in my case, I think this is a phishing attack, so I'm going to click the mark as phishing attack button. It's one click to mark it as an attack, quick verification, and that attack now moves to what we call the active attacks area, or the verified attacks area. And now I have pretty much the same view, right? I've got, it shows that I marked it as a phishing attack. Here again, I have access to those 2 buttons, mark as false positive and spam. And I have pretty much the same view, right? I've got my links that are being scanned still. I've got the body text and the headers and so on. But what you'll see here is it was first reported by the end user right at about 15 minutes ago. This is the attacker. This is the security analyst that resolved this incident, and it was resolved at 10:44:20 a.m. So that's a few seconds ago when I clicked that mark as phishing attack. However, if we scroll all the way down to the affected mailboxes, you'll see here that that Iron Traps immediately remediated that email from all the affected mailboxes. So let's go and check that. Let's go back. Do you remember that email was right between Walter's and Brendan's email? So here you can see that the email has been deleted from my mailbox. It's also not only has it been deleted from my mailbox, it's been deleted from Adam's and Erica's inbox instantaneously with that one click. So that's whether it's 3 mailboxes, 300 or 3,000 mailboxes, it's been deleted with one click. So I showed you Iron Sights. It's that red awareness header, the advisor to the end user for suspicious items, and then Iron Traps is the mechanism to report that email, and then also the automated forensics or scanning of these links and attachments, and it's also the remediation piece to remove that email from all affected mailboxes. That's Iron Traps. I'll show the third component real quickly. I'll show you an incident of federation. So federation was the third component. What federation is that global threat intelligence sharing. So what does that mean? So if you look at this email, right, looks kind of the same. I had the body text, I had some links that I scanned, I had affected mailboxes and so on. But instead of being reported by an end user, you'll see here it says first reported by federation. And it was first reported on the 2nd of April at 7:59:51 a.m. So what does that mean? So what it means is my organization received this email, and it was specifically this user here received this email on the 2nd of April at 7:51 a.m. At that time, as soon as we received it, Federation says, I know about that email. And what do I know about it? Well, Federation says 16 companies under IRONSCALES protection globally. 16 of those companies have seen this email. 10 of them marked it as an active phishing attack. 2 of them said it was false positive. So based on this threat intelligence, Federation said we received the email at 7:59:51. At that time, Federation says, I know about it, and this is what I know, and we immediately remediated that email. That email came in actually from a different sender about a month later, and we immediately remediated it. We got it again the next day, immediately remediated. I think you're getting the idea that basically, as soon as we're protected against an attack, we will keep on protecting the customer against that attack if it comes in again. So that's Federation. And then the last component I'll show is IRONSCALES, which is basically the concept of sending out, scheduling campaigns, right, where we send out these fake phishing emails to our end users, and we try and lure them to click on something. If they click on it, we send them through training, right? There's any number of vendors who do that. Well, we at IRONSCALES, again, that's where we started out. So you'll see here that actually I have English in my demo system. However, we do have 9 languages that we support. And you'll see I've got about 100 entries here. Most of them are tagged as system, which means they come with the system, they're built in. But then you also have the capability of creating a scenario or an email from scratch, or we can take the ones that the system created, and we can edit and copy and edit them to make them suit our purposes. So let's take a look at this LinkedIn invitation. You see here that basically this is the email that I'm going to send out. You can see there's the full HTML editor. I can edit this in GUI, in the graphical user interface. I can change the text, I can drag and drop graphics and so on. Or if I choose to do so, I can edit the raw HTML, okay? So very flexible, very customizable. You can basically edit this and do with it what you want. And then as you, once you finish with the scenario, then you choose to create a campaign and send this out to our users, all of our users, a subset of users, and so on. And then once this has been sent out to the end users, now we can track what actually happens with it. So I'll show you a report. I showed you earlier the aggregate report, the phishing simulator dashboard. This is a report for a specific campaign. Okay, so in this case, again, we can save as PDF, or down lower, you'll see we can save it as a CSV. Basically gives us a high-level overview of this campaign, right? We sent out 10 emails, we got 2 clicks, 1 person trained, 1 person reported. So let's go and look at that in a little more detail here. So we sent out 10 emails, 1 person reported it, 7 people actually read that email, 2 of them clicked on it, 1 person went through training, and actually the beauty of us being in the inbox is we can tell when somebody deletes an email as well. So we know somebody deleted this, and we can report on that too. So let's take a look at the participants here. So we start off showing the ones that we lured. So in this case, with this campaign, we had 2 people, as it says here, we had 2 people who clicked on this email, Erica and Darren. They both clicked and read it. However, Erica didn't do training, Darren did. Darren got a score of 80. And oh, by the way, this is the email that they saw, right? We have the capability of sending out different emails to different people, but in this campaign, this is the one that they saw, this is the one that they clicked on. So Erica didn't do training. Now, up at the top here, we have the link to the training so that we can send this to Erica's manager and Erica and say, look, this is something we want to track this. Please make sure you do the training. Okay, so that's the people we lured. Let's click on, let's see everybody's behavior. And once again, we can export this to Excel. So here you can see Adam, for instance. Adam read the email but took no further action. This user down here not only read the email, but also reported it and deleted the email. Now, because IronSchool is integrated with the rest of the system, when somebody reports an email, it doesn't go to the security analysts in the dashboard, right? If you recall, when somebody clicks report as phishing, that typically sends an alert to the dashboard and opens an incident for the security team to look at. With IronSchool, because we're integrated, when you click the report as phishing button, Iron Traps will immediately just give the end user a notification saying, great catch, this was a training exercise. It'll report it in the campaign results, but doesn't waste the security team's time to have to look at training exercises. So at a high level, that is IronSchool. So I showed you Iron Sites is the awareness header, the advisor to the end users. Iron Traps is the automated forensics and remediation, deleting those emails with one click. Federation was that global threat intelligence sharing service. And then IronSchool is the training and awareness piece. So that's really the end of my demonstration. And so Adam, if you're available, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Ian. Team, thank you for attending today's webinar and demo. Again, if you have challenges as it pertains to bad or malicious emails inside the mailbox, IronScales can help and very, very seamlessly and easily remove those emails, taking cycles off the IT and security team. So look forward to hearing from you soon. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Vandis or IronScales, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thanks, Martha.
I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Martha.
You're welcome.
Thank you.